Hello, this is Christian Jackson from Com45 Media and Culture. This is vlog discussion number 7, and this week's readings were Elevate My Mind, Identities for Women in Hip Hop Love Songs by Hollander, Country Music, Openness to Experience, and the Psychology of Culture War by Wilkinson, and Seduced by Perfect Pitch, How Auto-Tune Conquered Pop Music by Anderson. So for this week's readings, the authors are writing about analogies, and analogies are a way for something to be explained in simple term or a simple phrase. And I feel like that is important because everything always has much more from where it came from. One example of an analogy would be life is like a box of chocolates. And I feel like this analogy works so well because it follows the guideline of saying something is like something else to make some sort of explanatory point. So in the first essay, Elevate My Mind, Identities for Women in Hip Hop Love Songs, the author Hollander, she talks about how men dominate in hip hop, and that when a woman artist comes into the hip hop industry, she's automatically put into a category. And the author follows by saying that by putting women artists into categories, it makes it much harder for them to break through in the hip hop industry. And this is because when you are put into a category, it's hard to develop your own image because you're already seen as what you are. Some examples of this are women being expected to over sexualize everything in their songs, or like a woman artist dating a bigger male artist, so like it would be like an attachment. And from this explanation, it is clear that being a woman in the hip-hop industry is an analogy that is heavily affected women artists. And I honestly couldn't agree with Hollander's argument that women are put into categories, because when you think of the big names in hip hop and rap, you automatically think of male artists like Drake and Jay-Z. And if you do mention a woman or female artist, it's typically about music like twerking and, like she said, over sexualizing things. So I could most definitely agree with her analogy. In the next essay, Country Music, Openness to Experience, and the Psychology of Culture War, the author Wilkinson talks about how people associate country music to being and having a Republican or conservative point of view. And he says that he's a fan of country music, but he isn't a conservative. And he explains that people think this because oftentimes in country music, they're talking about the same two things. It's either love or living in a small town, living a peaceful life. And it's mostly conservative people who live these so-called peaceful lives. And all in all, I feel like Wilkinson's explanation was really good, and I feel like it was because he put everything into perspective. Like, these people make this type of music because that's like their area, their region. So when he puts it into perspective like that, it all comes together and makes sense. The last essay, Seduced by Perfect Pitch, How Auto-Tune Conquered Pop Music by Anderson, He um he uses literal analogies to compare different perspectives about the prevalence of auto-tune within popular music over the years. Um, One example that he uses is Keisha's album Animal was compared to Jay-Z's song Death of Autotune to highlight the similarities and differences between the two distinctive viewpoints. And Keisha's Animal utilized autotune yet was labeled as the real authentic Keisha. Meanwhile, Jay-Z's Death to Autotune did not use pitch correction and preached against it. And Anderson, he compared many singers such as Cher, John Lennon, Kanye West, T-Pain, to prove that there is a chronological increase of autotune in popular music that is causing us to normalize it and causing us to perfect pitch.